This video was brought to you by NCIX. Great technology, selection, and service.
Hello everyone, this is Dimitri with HardwareCanucks, and the core series from Fractal Design is their value concentrated line. They remove some of the features to hit a specific price point, but they've always been able to stick to their core formula of uncompromised cooling, ease of assembly, and outstanding build quality. And their less is more foundation here is fitting. So this is the Core 3500 windowed, the latest line of Fractal cases, priced at $89 and $10 less for the non-windowed model. That follows that simple Scandinavian design that we've come to love from the company. So in short, the 3500 utilizes the same internal frame as the Define Arc MIDI and the Define R4, just with a few modifications. This is the first chassis from Fractal with an angular front panel, as we usually see curves. They have maintained the brushed plastic that looks excellent without the messy characteristic of the brushed aluminum. As you see, the panel is mainly closed with ventilation on each side with built-in dust filters. A single 140mm fan is included at the front, and you can put a second intake fan for improved thermals. Up top we get two USB 3 ports, audio jacks, and PR buttons, and dual 140 and 120mm fan mounts with 120mm fan holes offset to allow better compatibility with radiators, and Fractal design has always been great to consider such an important element. Although, to cut down on the price, the Core 3500 does not have a top dust filter. Coming around to the back, a standard scene here with a 140mm exhaust fan, 7 PCI slots, and a fan controller that has now been relocated to this middle section. It is molex powered with 3 fan headers, but you'll have to deal with this obvious wiring that I'm not a fan of. They are black cables, so that's appreciated, although the exiting tips are not sleeved. That would have been nice. And as you can see, I had to route the molex below the power supply for appropriate connection, and I really would love to see the hub relocated behind the motherboard for any future models. The case stands on 12 feet, plus we get a large dual dust filter at the bottom for the power supply and the optional fan mount, so with our 170mm units or below, both 140 and 120mm fans will fit in just fine. And I really love Fractal's approach towards windowed side panels, especially the tint and the styling that has become sort of their staple, just like the brushed plastic on the front. And for the internals, aside from the relocated fan hub, not much has changed, as their core equation for the frame and layout is excellent to begin with. What we have here is a minimalist approach, so only one drive cage is present here, with excellent opening for direct air delivery, and 11.5 inches for your GPU clearance for the bottom 3 PCI slots. I love their metal drive caddies with centered SSD mounts that are sturdy with rubber grommets to prevent any vibration noise. Of course, taking into account additional water cooling options, the drive cage can be relocated slightly behind, allowing a 240mm radiator to fit at the front. This of course comes with some compromises. For example, the drive cage blocks the bottom fan intake, and GPU clearance for the bottom 3 PCI slots drops to 10 inches. Also, with the drive cage in the second position, a 280mm radiators will not have clearance due to the width of the frame of the drive cage. However, everything is well laid out at the rear with such a setup for routing. And I also love the small considerations to include cutouts for the front fan cables that are also sleeved, by the way, so clean routing is almost an expectation. At the rear we have many cable tie points, plus almost an inch for cable routing, and a small sleeve at the bottom to tuck all your cables. There are also 2 SSD mounts, but even despite the lower price tag, I really would have liked to see SSD brackets instead, as removing the SSDs would require entire disassembly, as you'll have to get behind the motherboard. I would say double-sided tape is your friend until we can see similar brackets as we saw on the Arc Mini R2. Also, you can notice how small the CPU cutout is, and I definitely would like to see that enlarged, but if any bigger, and we would see even more unstable motherboard tray, as there's practically no support on the right, and it does exhibit a lot of flex, as you can see. And finally, looking at the finished build, as expected, it cleans up well, plus we've had plenty of experience with this frame in the past, as the highly popular Define R4 and the Arc Midi R2 are practically identical with a few minor differences. Same story at the rear with controlled cable mess, and just a joy to build inside the Core 3500. A small gripe, however, is the length of the front panel audio cable. It is very short and doesn't even reach the motherboard on our sample. Now we do have just 2 inches of clearance up top, but as mounting holes are offset closer to the side panel, that shouldn't really be an issue. And for the conclusion, it's easy to see why Fractal hasn't done much with the layout, as they've got a great frame with excellent cooling, flexible water cooling options with relocation of the drive cage without compromising on storage capacity, proper cable management and ease of assembly, and at this price point it's great to see rubber grommets and a fan controller and an awesome side panel window. However, it lacks top dust filter. I'm not fond of the fan hub placement, although I appreciate its presence. Front panel audio cable is too short, plus no brackets for SSDs at the rear. And while these are all features we usually see on more expensive cases, it's definitely the direction I'd love to see Fractal to go to compete against the likes of Fantex and latest NZXT offerings. So make sure to check out the following reviews to get a good sense of how competitive the chassis market is becoming and why all these tiny details we're mentioning now are going to be sort of your main deciding factors on what case to purchase for your future build. So as always, thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe and like for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.